On this Sunday night, Morocco mourns. Villages wiped out, entire families killed after the strongest earthquake in that region in a century. The desperate race to find and free survivors from underneath the rubble as Canada stands ready to help.
We're working with the American government, with the Red Cross, with the UN agencies.
We're on the ground in the disaster zone tonight. Plane problems.
The Prime Minister has a plane that doesn't work reliably, and he doesn't have a house to live in reliably.
The unexpected ending to the Prime Minister's India visit. So because of this film, you can't go back to Iran?
No.
One filmmaker's big risk at Tiff. Canada's fairy tale finish at the FIBA World Cup.
And Canada, for the first time ever.
What it means for the future of Canadian basketball.
Global National with Farah Nasser.
Good evening to you, and thanks for joining us. It is a race against time in Morocco, where rescuers are scrambling to save people trapped under the rubble following Friday's rare and devastating 6.8 magnitude earthquake. And as people sift through the debris, often with their bare hands, aftershocks continue to rattle the region. The scale of the damage is overwhelming, and the hours ahead are critical. There are reports of entire villages being wiped out, not a single survivor. And as the first burials begin, the human toll is growing. Already more than 2,000 people are known to have died, and that number is expected to soar. More than 2,400 people have been injured. Rural communities have been the hardest hit and the hardest to reach because of the mountainous terrain. Crystal Goomansingh just arrived in Morocco, where the huge humanitarian response is now ramping up. Crystal, what's it like there right now?
You really don't have to look very hard to find people sleeping outside. This structure behind me is one that's a little bit more elaborate. Right now there's about a half a dozen people there, but many are just putting up a tent wherever they can, opting to sleep outside, feeling more security and safety here. And it's hard to blame them considering what they've been through the past couple of days. It's a scene echoing across this region. Rescuers sift through ruined buildings, desperately searching for any signs of life. Here, a woman is discovered and rescued. A rare moment of joy and relief amid so much pain. Since the initial magnitude 6.8 earthquake on Friday, horrific scenes have emerged from closer to the epicenter, roughly 75 kilometers southwest of Marrakesh in the High Atlas Mountains. A whole family of 6 died, he says. May God have mercy on them. Scores of villages just like this one sustained major damage. The vast majority of people here are Muslim, and the dead are buried without delay. The damage may be even worse higher up in the mountains, but a lot remains uncertain. Huge rockfalls have made some roads virtually impassable. Fortunately, in devastated areas within reach, aid is beginning to flow in. Earthquakes here aren't unknown, but this was the most powerful one to hit the region in more than 60 years. In Marrakesh, people spent another night on the streets, not taking chances indoors. Their fears justified after an aftershock rattled the region, raising tensions for Morocco's already badly damaged cultural and economic hub. This mosque collapsed, says a local bird seller. Fortunately, it did not cause any human losses. Marrakesh is nearly 1,000 years old, and many buildings in the old Medina, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, were destroyed. Over 10 million tourists visit Morocco every year. There is no easy exit for the people who call this home. Damage is estimated in the billions of dollars, and it will take years to rebuild. But the human toll can't be measured in dollars. 1/4 of the people who called this small village home are now dead, among thousands killed in this catastrophic earthquake. The government, along with local charities, has been here handing out food and water and just trying to give people a little bit of support. There is a sense of the community here on the ground coming together to try to help each other out. But of course, there's also the international community. A number of countries offered support, and we do know that Spain and the United Kingdom are now here on the ground with special search and rescue teams as well as dogs. The Americans have also arrived. They have brought a team to just try to get a sense of the humanitarian need that is currently here in Marrakesh. And as you can see, the need is fairly intense. People are outside. They're choosing to stay in places like this and sleep instead of risking another night in their buildings. Farah, I'll send it back to you.
Crystal Goomansingh in Morocco. Thank you, Crystal. The UN estimates 300,000 people have been affected by this disaster, but behind the numbers are countless stories of grief and loss. As Crystal mentioned, families shattered, torn apart, multiple generations lost forever. And in towns and villages that are accessible, residents are mourning the dead and they're pleading for more help. Redmond Shannon reports.
The typical brick houses of the Atlas Mountains stood little chance sitting above the 6.8 magnitude earthquake. So many of those inside these buildings died or were badly hurt. I lost two of my daughters, says this man. May God have mercy on them. They were sleeping on the first floor and the ceiling fell on them. Those injured are carrying mental scars that may never heal. About 31 people died here, says this man. We used all our efforts to rescue people. We did what we could, but there were many we could not help. Accounts like these are replicated across the earthquake zone. It's impossible to know how many people are still alive in the rubble. As the Moroccan army clears some of the blocked mountain routes, aid is slowly starting to reach remote villages.
Be careful.
An hour south of Marrakesh, Yassine Noumgar surveys what's left of his house.
Like yesterday, we ate our dinner.
Plates left as they were when his family suddenly fled for safety. The house, he says, no longer safe to live in.
No food, no water. We lost also electricity. It was very catastrophic and we feel very bad.
In a nearby town, survivors of all ages cram into simple tents, facing a third night sleeping outside. We told them we are 24 people in one tent, says this woman. They said they will give us a spare when one becomes available. Many are echoing the early pleas of survivors of February's earthquake in Turkey and Syria, calling on the government and international community for assistance. People are suffering and aid is late, says this man. The situation is dire. Moroccans across the country are doing what they can to help, donating money and blood. Whatever aid arrives from inside and outside the country, it's likely not to be enough, as the extent of this disaster slowly becomes clear. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly says about 4,800 Canadians are registered with the embassy in Morocco and that 51 Canadians have requested information in the region, but says no one has requested help and no Canadian deaths have been reported. The embassy remains open in Rabat, and Ottawa is urging those who have not registered already to do so. And while Canada has not provided formal aid yet, Joly says the government is organizing supports.
We're working with the American government, with the Red Cross, with the UN agencies. My colleague Ahmed Hussein, the Minister of International Development, the Minister of also Defense, Bill Blair and I are in close contact to make sure that Canada stands ready when the American government will be able to present their asks as they're assessing the situation.
Joly says she is in contact with the Moroccan government and has been receiving hourly updates. The G20 summit has wrapped up, but Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is still in New Delhi. His plane was supposed to take off early this morning, but was grounded because of technical issues. And as Taria Isri reports, that's not the first time this has happened.
The Prime Minister's plane is sitting on the tarmac in Delhi. It was scheduled to depart Sunday after the G20 summit wrapped, but it never left. The military discovered a problem as it was preparing for takeoff.
This incident is kind of a sad metaphor for Canada in a couple ways. The Prime Minister has a plane that doesn't work reliably, and he doesn't have a house to live in reliably.
24 Sussex, the Prime Minister's official residence, is uninhabitable. A replacement aircraft was delivered to Ottawa, but it was not ready in time for the G20. Since Trudeau's been in office, his plane has broken down multiple times. In 2016, on his way to Belgium for trade talks, and again in 2019, his backup plane was grounded.
It does not shine very well on the overall image of Canada, but it reflects the choices that this government has made. This government has made choices that say defense and anything related to it simply is not important, and therefore we're not going to spend money on it.
It's another complication for Trudeau on an India trip. His visit in 2018 was problem-plagued, but for different reasons. 5 years later, and his relationship with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not improving.
This happens to be one where a moment in time in which relations are perhaps a little more strained than they've been in the past.
The two had a sit-down behind closed doors in New Delhi after a weekend of stilted handshakes.
You read into what you like.
Modi raised the issue of what he calls anti-India activities of extremist elements in Canada, while Trudeau says he brought up foreign election interference by India in Canadian democracy.
Diaspora Canadians make up a huge proportion of our country, and they should be able to express themselves and make their choices.
The problem with the Prime Minister's plane is a wrinkle in his week-long trip to Asia, which just got longer. But the extended stay comes as no surprise to those who say the aircraft should have been replaced years ago. Farah?
Charia Isri in New Delhi. Thank you, Charia. Alberta's health service pushed to the brink. Coming up, the growing number of E. coli cases in Calgary. In Ukraine, a Canadian aid worker has been killed in a Russian missile attack near Bakhmut. Global Affairs Canada is confirming the death, but not the Canadian man's identity. But the Road to Relief Aid Group, which helps remove wounded civilians from frontline areas, says Anthony Inat, a Canadian man, died in a Russian attack on a vehicle driving toward Bakhmut. Spain's government has also confirmed one of its citizens was also killed. The group says the vehicle they were in suffered a direct hit from Russian shelling on Saturday while traveling to Bakhmut. And hours after those aid workers were killed, Russia launched an assault on the Ukrainian capital. Ukraine's army says its air defense system destroyed 26 of the 33 Iranian-made drones fired by Russian forces, which targeted Kyiv and the surrounding region. At least 5 blasts were heard across the capital. The barrage, which lasted about 2 hours, destroyed several buildings. There are now 190 lab-confirmed cases of E. coli linked to an outbreak in Calgary. 27 patients are being treated in hospital. Outbreaks were declared this week at several Calgary daycares, all connected by a central kitchen. Alberta Health Services is still investigating the exact source of the outbreak. In a tweet, Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith says she's asked the Health Minister and the Children and Families Minister to do a full assessment of the outbreak. 19 patients also have developed a serious kidney issue. Risking it all at Tiff. Ahead, an Iranian-Canadian filmmaker's world premiere that comes at a cost. Next week will mark 1 year since the death of Mahsa Amini sparked anti-hijab protests in Iran. Even now, brave women continue to defy Tehran by showing their hair. And this week, a film about Iranian oppression was one of the first to debut at the Toronto International Film Festival. The short film, titled Meteor, explores the mysterious death of Amin, a gay man in Iran and the close friend of the Canadian-Iranian filmmaker Atifeh Kodamoreza. She believes he died from HIV/AIDS, but was scared to get tested because it would put his family in danger. I sat down with her for an interview. Atifeh, your film opened as one of the ones that opened TIFF. Congratulations. It really looks at the issue of homophobia and the patriarchy. What's it like to be gay in Iran right now?
You cannot identify yourself as gay in Iran. Since I immigrated to Canada and I saw that wow, it is great that people can love anyone that they want. And then I compare all these things with my experience with my friend that I lost him. And I know how painful was his life. I was like, you know what? I will tell my story. And it doesn't matter if I cannot go back to my country anymore, but I have to share this story.
So because of this film, you can't go back to Iran?
No.
How does that feel?
It's, I'm a little bit confused. I'm like, what did I do? I cannot go back. And a part of my life is still there. I grew up there. My family is still there. Sometimes I feel like, did I do right things? And I keep telling myself yes, because woman life freedom has taught me, you know, achieving freedom costs a price, and we must be willing to pay.
September 16th marks 1 year since Mahsa Amini died while in the custody of the morality police. The issue isn't getting as much attention now a year later. So what has really changed?
You might not see people protesting in the street, but the revolution has happened in people's mind. Many women in Iran, they are not wearing hijab anymore. They know that they might be arrested. They know that they might be killed in the street, but they risk their life because they are looking for social justice. Some of my friends, they are right now in jail because they don't wear hijab, because they are making some arts about this revolution which is happening in Iran. So it's like, it's ongoing things in Iran.
Iran is no stranger to revolution. What will the country now, though, look like because of this one in 10, 20, 30 years?
You know, they cannot stop new generation. They're different from us. I was born in the middle of war, and I was thinking this government is doing well, and the rest of, I mean, they brainwashed us. I was like, oh, this government is doing well, and the other countries, they don't want, they do their work well. But gradually, when I grew up, I came out like from the school and was looking around, and then internet came, and then we had access to like videos and movies from other countries. I was like, what, where's my freedom as a woman? And I feel like I'm not matched with the definition that this society is giving me as a woman. That's why I get out. Even after I came here, I couldn't criticize Iranian regime because I wanted to go back. You know, they manipulate you. Even when you get out and you think that you are free, you are not, because you want to have this permission to go back to your country. But you think that when I want to be myself, so that's why I made Meteor, and I'm like, I'm happy to do it.
It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much.
After weeks of criticism in Spain over that World Cup kiss scandal, Luis Rubiales is stepping down as president of the Spanish Soccer Federation. Rubiales has been under fire since kissing star player Jenny Hermoso on the lips after winning the Women's World Cup. He claims it was consensual. She says it was not. Spanish prosecutors have opened a sexual assault case on the issue, meaning Rubiales could face criminal charges. According to a new sexual consent law in Spain, he could face up to 4 years in prison if found guilty. Spanish players had said they would not take the field for Spain's national team until Rubiales was removed. And that's Global National for this Sunday night. I'm Farah Nasser, and tonight's Your Canada is a slice of history out of Montreal. Officials were handing out about 4,000 rivets as free souvenirs from the dismantled Champlain Bridge. The historic structure spanned the St. Lawrence River from Montreal to the city's south shore for more than 50 years until it was replaced by a new bridge in 2019. Very cool piece of history to have. Until next time, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Have a great week. Good night.